All right, hello everyone, and welcome back to another 5K tennis discussion. It is Sunday, April the 21st, 2019, and we are here for our 64th show of 2019 ATP and WTA seasons, and that would be 64. All right, Monte-Carlo has just finished or completed, and this is an interesting fact, by the way. What are you doing? Oh, Fognini. She's doing the Fognini. She's doing that Fognini stuff. All right. Hopefully I look as good as Fognini does, and as well look as good as the way he played in the last couple of matches. But here's a quick fact about Fognini winning his first Masters ATP 1000 title, which is standing ovation.
Yeah, good for him. Honestly, good for him. I mean, he went through some tough opponents, so yeah.
We kind of give him a comical hard time because of the magnificence of his beard and his court attire. His conduct doesn't always follow the suit of his attire or his beard, but nonetheless, he won his first ATP Masters 1000, and that is to be congratulated. And
Definitely.
had Nadal down 5-0 in the second set. We'll get into that in a little bit.
Yeah.
But this makes 8 different ATP men's champions in the last 17 men's ATP 1000s. Let me read it.
That's awesome. I prefer that, honestly. That's awesome.
So I'm going to reiterate that. 8 different ATP men's 1000s champions. 8 different. Okay?
Good.
Interestingly enough, in the last 17 majors, Grand Slam tournaments, 3 out of 5 sets, all 4, there has only been 5 different champions over the last 17 majors. However, out of those 5, only Wawrinka, who won 2, a French and a U.S., correct?
Mm-hmm.
Or Australian, rather. Right? Wawrinka won...
He won a French Open, a U.S. Open.
Okay, yeah. But within the last 2 years, and then Andy Murray won 1.
Yeah.
So within the last 17 ATP 1000s, you have 8 different champions, different people. The last 17 majors, 5 different people. But let's be real, out of all of those, only 3 were by 2 different people.
Yeah.
So why is this? Why is it that there are decisive major trophy holders that involve just a few players in the majors, and in the ATP 1000s, 2 out of 3 sets? Why is it? Why is it in the 2 or 3 sets tournaments the field is more equal?
It's 2 out of 3 sets. I mean, guys do need the extra set. I mean, a lot of guys can come back down from 2 sets. So I think 3 out of 5 is very important for men. I mean, things change pretty quickly. Especially if you get broken pretty much in men's in 1 set, pretty much that set's done. And then you go to the next one, you know?
So, I guess let's start a discussion here. Why is it that 2 out of 3 sets for the men versus 3 out of 5 sets for the men have so many different outcomes? I guess you could say.
Well, the top players can figure it out. They can dig it out more. You don't have as much time with 2 sets. 2 sets can fly quickly, especially if you have a good server.
I think a lot of things come into play. The surface. I think a lot of players have a better ability to come back from being down on a particular surface over another surface. Mental, 3 out of 5 sets. You know, you might be up 2 sets, and then all of a sudden you're down a break or 2 in the 3rd set, and then your confidence kind of shakes or quivers there for a minute, and then all of a sudden you find yourself in a 5th set. So I think mental is a lot of it. Fitness as well. Who can go deep into the 5th set, whereas someone may only be able to go deep into a 2nd and maybe halfway through a 3rd set. So I think fitness and mentality is important here. There's more intensity, I think, in majors. I think there's a lot of tournaments that the male players will play, and maybe they had agreed to play the tournament, and maybe they realize they've got a major upcoming. and maybe they don't want to put as much effort into a 2 out of 3 set tournament as they would in a 3 out of 5 set tournament, right?
Yes.
Conserving energy, maybe. Some players have more financial leeway to maybe conserve energy, whereas some other players outside of the top 10, generally tennis players are starving, right? I mean, I think we watched a movie a long time ago. I think it was called The Journeyman. It was a DVD about some journeyman type tennis players that put into perspective that if you're outside of the top 10, and I'm sure obviously this is the precedent on the women's side as well, but I'm only referring to this movie, The Journeyman, which is available in a lot of different locations, where it really came to show that outside of the top 10, between traveling and coaches and food and lodging and everything else that they have to juggle is quite difficult, right?
Yes, it is.
So I think that when we see, and we'll get into this, Nadal was down 5-0 in the second set against Fognini. Djokovic has a lackluster performance here in this tournament. We can get away with saying they were conserving energy because they're $100 million athletes with double-digit majors in their pockets, right? Lest we not forget, Roger Federer is practicing quietly on clay as well. But I think in the top 10, you can afford to say maybe they were conserving energy. But nonetheless, the rest of the players cannot. But there is more intensity in 3 out of 5 set majors, in my opinion, than there is in 2 out of 3. Again, because the top players can afford to take a day off if they wish and move on to the next tournament, ultimately hoping for another major in their pocket.
Plus, also, you have a bigger crowd in the Grand Slams. You know, if you're down, they root for you. I mean, so it makes you want to fight more. I mean, it's just a different type of arena, I think.
Yeah, and there's more players. I think we have a draw size of 128 at the Indian Wells, and I think we have a draw size of 128 in Miami for the ATP 1000s. And I'd have to study a little bit more to tell you what other tournaments have more than that. But we have to take into consideration that these tournaments have buys. There are no buys in the majors. You get in where you fit in, and you grind, and you dig deep, and you play 8 matches to win the tournament, and you don't get that automatic second round bid, right?
Right.
So there's more players. There isn't, in my opinion, room for any player whatsoever, male or female, to indicate that I wanted to conserve energy for a major or something along those lines. I think that's kind of letting the crowd down and so forth, but nonetheless, the top 10 players in the world do kind of ease off the throttle a little bit in these tournaments, and maybe I'm wrong, but I can guarantee you Nadal was not 100% into his match. I can guarantee you that Djokovic wasn't 100% into his match. However, at the French Open, i.e. Roland Garros, I can guarantee you that both of them will be.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's no excuses. Both guys lost. I mean, Nadal lost, and the score looked terrible. I didn't get a chance to watch this match. I was watching it on the phone, the scores, since we were working. But I think if this would have been a French Open, I think he would have dug deeper. I think he would have fought Fognini. I think the crowd would have pushed him to be in it. I mean, but again, no excuse. Fognini beat him fair and square.
Yeah, Fognini took Nadal out in straight sets. Yeah, but if let's say this was the French Open Roland Garros and the same type of dialogue ran its course. In other words, Fognini would have been up 2-0 on Nadal at, say, Chartrier at the French Open. I still would pick Nadal to come back and win that match in 5.
I do too.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think it was a prime example of why the 3 out of 5 sets in the majors are majors, and 2 out of 3 is just a little bit different of an animal.
Correct.
All right, so there's a lot to talk about today. The Monte-Carlo final, and that was Lajovic, the Serbian with the one-handed backhand. By the way, that's 28 years old, from Belgrade, Serbia, and owns a coffee shop in Belgrade, Serbia.
Good for him.
Good for him and great for him. I have a feeling that his tennis career is on a trajectory that can probably economically gain his coffee shop at this point.
He looked a little bit lost today.
He looked a little lost, but nonetheless, he looked good.
Yeah, I was happy for him. I was rooting for him, actually. I like to see the one-handers. I was rooting for him. He was from Serbia. Great story, a veteran in tennis. I wanted him to really win his first tournament, first Masters.
Let me ask everyone a question. And I'm going to include Arvis, Jagomar, and this, or Jagomar, and this question. We've talked about the likes of players like Marcelo Rios, and in other words, a player that's kind of been around and gotten to the top of the game and gotten these rankings, a lot of tournaments, and maybe not the best results, but nonetheless they get these rankings. So let's say the Marcelo Rios of 2 decades ago. Let's say the Cecchinatos now, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm bringing Arvis into this one because Arvis tends to think that Cecchinato is a really great clay court player, and he is right. He has paid off by points accumulation so far this season, right?
Yeah.
So here's this guy, Lajovic here. You know, underneath the radar, stealthy guy, 28, Serbian, coffee shop, Belgrade.
When you look at him, you don't really think much of him.
You don't think much. And by the way, this guy from Belgrade, he was probably practicing at some point in his career against bombed out swimming pools. I'm sure he has a really deep geopolitical story to hear. That's not why we're here. But when I hear that there is a 28-year-old from Belgrade, I'm thinking this guy has been through some tough roads, right? So all I'm saying is that when we have players like Lajovic, Cecchinato, Marcelo Rios that jump up into these higher rankings, right, because of this surface, right?
Mm-hmm.
Who, in your opinion, may be better at this point? The likes of the Cecchinato, are they all just clay court type players, and that's all?
Well, Marcelo Rios played on hard court too, really well. He wasn't just a clay court specialist. So he wouldn't be in that category, I don't think. I think you're wrong on that one.
All right, so Cecchinato versus Lajovic, as of right now, based upon what you just kind of saw today, who would you pick? If you had to pick one player to go deep,
I would pick Cecchinato just because he went deeper last year at the French Open. This is the only reason why, but to me they're pretty even, honestly.
Of tennis players,
and they both hit one-handers, so.
You know, I think we do these pre-major tournaments to build up to the major, the Grand Slam that awaits us, right?
Yes.
So we do pre-Wimbledon and pre-US Open. So this is pre-French, okay? And I kind of got lost in that whole deal just then. So sorry for that if I went in like a multi-verbal stew. But I guess what I'm trying to get at is we meet players and we get to know players during clay court season that we wouldn't get to know elsewhere.
Correct.
But I guess trying to put this into
who's going to have the better career?
Who's going to have the better career? Would it be the likes of the Cecchinatos? And again, I say Marcelo Rios because he was a top player in the world.
He was number one.
But didn't really do too much on the major level. So again, Cecchinato went to what, a French Open semi? Final?
He beat Djokovic, I think, in the quarters, I think.
I think Lajovic looks really good on clay, but I don't think, even with the one-hander...
Both have one-handers.
I don't think that either player outside of clay will do much damage anywhere. And again, we'll see what happens, but I think Cecchinato, Lajovic, players like Giri... and maybe even at this point, Ajay Elysium, the young Canadian
No,
kid.
he proved he could play on hard court.
We'll see what happens.
You're wrong about that one.
All right. We're also going to get into the Monte-Carlo final. Barcelona, by the way, is fixing to start. We're going to talk about the French Open. We already have begun to discuss the French Open. Rafael Nadal's status as of right now. Is he vulnerable? Novak Djokovic's status. What's going on here? Is he vulnerable? Fabio Fognini wins his first Masters 1000. We've discussed this and more, so let's jump right in.
Sure.
You ready? All right, 13 minutes in, and I'm saying jump right in. We're like halfway through this deal.
Well, we didn't... Okay, go ahead.
I want to start, I say I, and I'll get to why I said I, because she really wasn't a part of the I. You'll get the drift. We're going to start out with a shout out to Alina Day. Alina Day, one of our aspiring junior tennis students. I told her that I would bring her up at the beginning of the show. We're 14 minutes in, so if you watch this far, let's go! Come on! So she is a very talented young tennis player, 15 years old, and has absolutely supportive parents, and that will absolutely make sure that Alina, let's go, has everything that she needs to prosper into the game. She came out and trained yesterday with Carla and myself, or Carla and I, grammatically correct, whichever way it is.
Carla and I, yes.
She came out yesterday and called me out. She came up and was like, I'm mad. I'm like, what? What are you mad at? Me? What did I do? I'm like, out here trying to train you, trying to get you to motivate. Let's go. Let's move. Come on. You can do better than that. She's like, I'm like, what? Like, why are you mad at me for? Can you tell her why she was, can you tell the audience why she was mad at me?
Well, you didn't mention her in our last show. You mentioned 2 other students, and one which didn't even have a lesson with us. And she was the first one to have a lesson with us.
This 15-year-old player's feisty. She can play, all right? And we're going to get into what we can do for her to make her even better. But she called me out. Me, not her, not Carla. Me. Mm-hmm. I'm like, how are you going to do this to me? I'm like totally the most supportive person on this whole team that we got. And you're calling me out? No.
Well, yeah, he's the one that writes the show, so you should call him out.
Look. Let me put this into perspective.
And I did tell him about that. You just didn't remember.
Most, and I will say most, I would have said all before, but most individuals that watch this show are very meticulous, very deep in their tennis thoughts, and sometimes come right to the boxing ring, right? Like, you know, they're ready to like, wow, what'd you say? Boom, 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 boom. I really didn't, I did not think that the lot, or really any of our aspiring junior students watched the show. I figured everybody would turn it off halfway through, at least at their young age. You know, they got other things to do, and they got all these different avenues they can go down, and to sit. I didn't expect it. Number one, so Alina, I'm sorry I didn't mention your name last time, but I'm going to mention it today. But be careful of what you wish for. So if I didn't know you, Alina, and I didn't know your parents, then that's another thing. You don't want to ever bring up, you know, a younger aged female on any type of like computer program or whatever.
Well, she's a student.
She's a student, but
you mentioned the 2 boys, but you didn't mention her, so I get it.
So since Alina, you called me out, let's talk about Alina, one of our junior students, for a minute. 15 years old. She has the look of a solid tennis player. She's built like a tennis player. She's had a few little setbacks, shoulder tweak here, and some other things going on there. Nonetheless, she is, to me, a brilliant young tennis player. But for me, Carla, she is at the point in her life where if she takes one moment off and doesn't give 100% on the practice court, on the match court, win or lose, then ultimately what will seem like yesterday. Time moves fast, in other words. I look back in time and it seems like I was single and I didn't have 5 kids and it seemed like just yesterday. But for her, the next couple of years will make or break how far she takes her tennis game, right?
Yes, definitely.
So her game, offensive. However, on her backhand side, Alina, a little sluggish. Okay. Footwork okay 80% of the time. The other 20% of the time, a little lackluster. The 3 times that we trained, day 1 brought some pain, brought some drama. The second time, kind of like a 10% deal. And then yesterday we had a really good workout. Mm-hmm. She, for me, Carla needs to continue to work on both wings, backhand, forehand. She actually has a nice little serve. I think we need to get the confidence back there. So I'm going to actually mention Stephen DeViti from Big Hit Sport. No, Stephen DeViti from Hydro Athletics.
Hydro Athletics, yes.
And Big Hit International, which is Michael Figgins, right?
Correct.
I'm going to mention these 2 guys on this video right now that had no idea this is coming. Michael Figgins and Stephen DeViti, what are 2 things that you guys can assist a 15-year-old, very talented young tennis player, and I say this from a coach that has coached everywhere as well as Carla. She has talent, but confidence issues, and she's coming off some time off due to some shoulder issues.
Injury, yeah.
And she has recovered from that. In the pool, Stephen DeViti. Not in the pool, Michael Figgins. What can this 15-year-old girl that could really make some noise? And both these guys are Floridians that have been around the game and coached some of the best in the business.
Could be a Division I.
Could be a Division I player if she works hard enough. What are some things this young lady can do with us, or if you had her there, to build her confidence, to re-strengthen the body? Because again, you see any girls her age around the country, she has the talent. but with some shoulder issues, there's a little bit of rust, but that rust can come off. Let's you two give her advice.
Sure.
Okay?
And I'll tag them. I'm sure they'll reply.
Please do. This girl's good. Check her out. To me, she is has the most prospectability. It's not a word, but to me, she's a top-notch prospect in this area, and it's up to her.
Yes.
And mom and dad are there to do whatever it needs to make it happen. But ultimately, in the game of tennis, it's up to you.
Yes.
All right?
Definitely.
Enough about this. And again, shout out to mom and dad that make that happen. All right, Carla, Nadal's lost to Fognini and being down 5-0 in the second set. Is Nadal vulnerable? Let's do this quick.
He's definitely vulnerable. I thought he was about to get a 6-0. Honestly, I was messaging Rajesh because I think we were both watching the scores on our phone. I was a bit shocked that he lost to Fognini. I know Fognini's beat him before, but not at Monte-Carlo. I did
5-0 in the second.
I did not expect him to be that vulnerable. I mean, he didn't look great with Peña, but Fognini took him out of his game. I mean, even when he shook his hand, I did watch some of the previews, some points. He just didn't look like Nadal. And is he vulnerable? Yes. I don't pick him to win the French Open this year. I've told that to Rajesh before this tournament even finished, before he lost, that Nadal is not my pick this year for the French Open. Neither is Djokovic.
I think that Nadal is not vulnerable. Something was going on in his semifinal match against Peña, by the way. I don't know how many quarterfinal. I don't know how many times I have seen Nadal like scream at his racket. To me, it almost seemed like there was a stringer or an equipment breakdown at some point during that quarterfinal or semifinal match. He kept looking at his strings, his racket. It just seemed like the normal shot that he was pulling off, he wasn't pulling off. And yeah, maybe that's an excuse. Maybe it's equipment. Maybe it's malfunction. And maybe it's just you're late because you stayed up too late. Maybe argued with your fiance the night before. Who knows? But it just seemed like something was off. And Nadal has never smashed a racket as we have gotten into on the Pro Tour.
But you can't make an excuse for Nadal because Fognini won that match. We can't make excuses when Federer or Djokovic or Nadal lose.
No. What I was getting at is in other words, Nadal hypothetically smashed a racket because he never shows that much like negative emotion, and in that match he showed a lot of negative emotion. It almost seemed like he was smashing rackets in his head, and that's pretty rare for him.
Yeah.
Is Fognini a contender at the French Open?
He is. He's a player that gets into other players' head. He obviously got into Nadal's head. He did talk smack before the match, and I'm sure Nadal heard it. He's the type of player that wants to get under your nerves. He wants to make you pissed off. He wants to, wants for you to be in his head, or for him to be in your head. I mean,
is Lajovic a contender at the French Open?
No.
So he makes a Monte-Carlo final.
No, but this draw was small with a whole bunch of buys. No,
so here
I would have to have more proof. Let's see what happens in Barcelona. Let's see what happens in Rome.
But see, I don't see.
Because Fognini,
I don't like that. I don't like
that. Wait a minute, Fognini's in the top 10. Is he not?
He's like 13 or 15 in the world, something like that.
No.
Fognini's not top 10 in the world. Here, while you look that up, Fognini's not top 10. He shouldn't be.
After this tournament, he will be.
But how can Carla say Fabio Fognini is a French Open contender
because
and Lajovic is not? They both were in their first Masters 1000.
Fognini's number 18 in the world.
18? You just said top 10.
Oh, he's going to be. I heard that.
So you're wrong. You're wrong.
He will be in the top. Come on, guys. Besides the point that he is a pretty boy, he knows how to play in clay. He is a veteran. He's beaten the top players, has he not? He went through Zverev in this match. He went through your Chorich that you have so much promise for. He just beat Nadal. He can beat the top players. He has more of a chance than Lajovic does. He made Lajovic look like a pretty simple player today.
But in my opinion, Fognini is a pretty simple player as well.
But he's been around. He just
won the Monte-Carlo Masters 1000.
I'm not talking because even before the Monte-Carlo, if he would have lost to Nadal, and you asked me that question, I would still say Fognini has a better chance than Lajovic.
I didn't say better chance. I said, is he a contender?
He is a contender, of course. He plays on clay. He's Italian. They're raised on clay.
I think Lajovic has just as good a shot at the French Open than Fognini does in 3 out of 5
sets.
Let's
see what happens in the rest of these clay tournaments. Remember, Grand Slams are different.
How vulnerable is Novak Djokovic? Or is he vulnerable
He's always been vulnerable in clay. It's his least best surface.
Now, is it not true that there are multiple bets right now that
I'm going to win
that we have with multiple people on this show about Novak Djokovic, and don't forget about Roger Federer winning the French Open.
Yeah,
I have a bet ongoing with Anis Zazou. Much love, bro.
And he had a great comment, by the way.
And we're gonna read that comment, so get that ready. Anis Zazou has a bet with me. I threw out there that Roger Federer has a really good shot at winning the French Open. He called me out on it. I accepted the bet. So if Roger Federer wins the French Open, Anis Zazou will do something preposterous. If not, then I shall do so. However, there was two people that bet with Carla that Novak Djokovic would win the French Open. One, Kane, which we haven't heard from since he made the bet. Come on, man. Bet her that...
He wimped out. Kane, you wimped out. You didn't want to pay his debt, so that's okay. No worries.
Bet Carla that if Djokovic did not win the French Open, that Kane would buy Carla the brand new tennis racket of her choice.
He won't.
We hadn't heard from him since. Love you though, either way.
I'm coming for you. You're in California.
We're still there. We're gonna find you. But either way, we love you. Just being funny. Hope all is well, Kane. And then don't you and Rahesh have something cooking for the French Open?
Yeah, if Rahesh loses, he has to wear a Nadal shirt, something with Nadal on it. If I lose, then you guys decide something with Djokovic.
Just be careful. Roger Federer is training quietly on this surface somewhere as well. Be careful. Will this French Open be won by one of these three men? Federer, Djokovic, Nadal, or is there a new champ?
I say there's a new champ.
If you had to pick one, though, out of those three, Djokovic, Federer, Nadal, who would you choose at this point?
I would still pick Nadal.
I'm still going with Federer.
Yeah.
Djokovic,
Do you want me to read Anis' comment?
Yeah, go ahead, time-wise. This is a comment, by the way. We started this show by reading viewer comments. We wouldn't even talk ourselves. We would just read viewer comments back and forth, back and forth. And we really like to try to read a viewer comment. So this viewer comment is coming from the one, the only, Anis Zazou himself.
And I won't read the whole comment. This is pertaining why people get on me about Novak Djokovic. He said that why don't they agree with me?
So a lot of people, we have to delete messages sometimes because we try to keep the show positive. PG, as we just talked about at the beginning of the show, we do have young ladies, junior tennis players, and it doesn't matter if you're a junior tennis player or not. I mean, this is a game where we should be respectable. So a lot of times we have to delete comments that come in because they're like, Carla, you are bleep, 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 beep, 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 bleep, 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 because she doesn't like Djokovic. It's not that at all. So again, the comment came in. It's just kind of reality talk sometimes.
Yeah. Well, here's Anis, and I think he's from Serbia too.
Here we go.
He says, they don't agree with you because they are just blind fanatics, for the most of them, and can't accept a critic of their hero. I have been arguing with many of those on YouTube comments, and it seems to me like they have no brain. They just started to insult you and call you an idiot because you don't agree with them. Novak was amazing on clay when he was at his physical peak, when he could get every single ball and just hit back the ball until you miss. He just can't do that anymore. He has lost a bit of speed. He anticipates way more than before the ball is going because he knows he's not as fast. I deeply believe that Federer is a better clay courter than Nole. That is why I don't see Novak winning any big tournament on clay.
And that's why I picked Roger to win the French Open this year, if Nadal is neutralized and is a little vulnerable.
He says, Novak winning any big tournament on clay until his career. He's just average on clay now. When you look at Rafa, you understand why he's unbeatable on that surface. He just has every single game plan there. He can play the wall. He can brutalize you with aggressive attacking shots. He can come to the net. He can drop shot. He is way more complete than Novak, and for me, the second most complete tennis player ever behind Federer. When I hear some people saying that Novak is the most complete, that just makes me laugh so hard. His net game is average. His slice is garbage. Let's not talk about his overheads. So he's saying basically that Novak's older now. What makes people think he's going to win on clay when at his peak, he had a hard time winning on clay.
I still think Djokovic has a very good shot at the French, but again, if I would like to see what the Vegas betting odds would be, or any sports lines betting odds would be of the current odds to win the French Open. I would think Nadal's still number one. I would think Federer comes in before Djokovic at number two. But you guys can comment on that. Let us know. All right, so again, a great final for Fognini. Glad he won
6-3, 6-4, and also doubles. Nikolai Mektic and Franco Skugor from Croatia won the men's doubles at the Rolex Monte-Carlo, defeating Robin Hasse and Woodhoff from Netherlands. Wesley Woodhoff.
Great tournament.
So good for the Croatians.
Great tournament. Conditions were very slow. I think there was a comment we had with
that Americans.
We don't understand it.
We don't understand clay.
We do, and again the quote European clay versus red clay and green clay. You know, it's all from different places, but I think ultimately.
Clay is clay.
Clay is clay to a certain, and again the conditions. Who treats it? How much moisture is on the clay? Is it dry clay? Has no one groomed the court? What's the surface conditions like? There's a lot of things that come into play.
And Americans do play in clay. Believe it or not, all the country clubs have clay. They love clay.
Most of the coaching clubs that myself and Carla have had the blessing of coaching at, which has been quite a few from the East Coast to the West Coast of the United States. The large majority of those courts are green clay, and then red clay. I had the blessing to be around in Vermont, which was a lovely surface to play on.
And clay is good on your body, by the way. Hard court is very tough on the body.
All right, so upcoming Barcelona, the ATP 500 draws are out, except there are a lot of empty spaces currently for qualifiers and lucky losers. There is a women's WTA Premier upcoming next week, and that's in Stuttgart, Germany. And as well, there is another smaller tournament in Istanbul, Turkey, if I recall correctly.
Yeah.
Both of which, the Premier, by the way, the women's WTA Premier, being a Premier, that's like a Masters 1000 for the women. The WTA tournament and Stuttgart will be, in my opinion, more exciting than what we will see transpire in Barcelona.
Yeah, well, we already have the qualifiers that came through for Barcelona. Diego Schwartzman, Ramos Vignolas, Marcel Granollers, Pedro Sosa, Federico Del Bonis, and Hugo Delian are your qualifiers that came through.
You know, so here's a good question, though. I was asking Carla, why is it that Diego Schwartzman, again, the young Argentinian player, we're not young, mid-20s, why is it that he was having to go through qualifying? I know that in this tournament, and I'll get my draws out again as usual. Carla and I always do a predictive draw and then keep a blank draw to track the wins and losses with. But in this tournament, again, this is a 500, so I understand the smaller draw size. Not in retrospect with Monte-Carlo, that's 1,000 and has the same draw size. I still think Monte-Carlo should be a 500.
Yes.
But the seeding is peculiar here because you have Diego Schwartzman qualifying, who's ranked like what, number 14 or 24 in the world.
24.
He's 24 in the world. But you have
Auger
Aliassime, the young Canadian that is ranked, I think, 33 in the world. That's
16.
automatically in.
Yeah.
You have Lucas Pouille, the Frenchman, that's 31 in the world, who is automatically in. You have Tiafoe, the American, that's 29 in the world, that's automatically in. So I'm wondering why Diego Schwartzman had to qualify.
Yeah, I don't get that.
Anyway, he's in, and I think that might throw some stew mix into the deal.
Yeah, because in the qualifier section, you have Goffin has a qualifier, so does Thiem has a qualifier that might be coming to him. Fognini has a qualifier that's coming to him as well. Medvedev has a qualifier that's coming to him. And so does Zverev. So one of those guys is going to get Schwartzman.
The top 4 seeds in Barcelona. Number 1 seed, Rafael Nadal. Go figure. Really tough draw, though. Another really tough draw. He had a tough draw in Monte-Carlo. But yet, he's the king of clay. He should go through these easily.
Yeah.
Number 2 seed, the wild card. The young Sasha or Alexander Zverev. On the bottom half with that wild card spot, he has a workable draw. He does have a workable draw.
Well, he's got
there's Nishikori down there. There's Medvedev down there.
There's Felix,
Auger Aliassime, Gilles Simon.
Dimitrov.
But he doesn't have like the top half where we have David Ferrer jumping into business, Goffin, Tsitsipas, Thiem, the ever so screeching maniac himself, Jamie Munar, who trains at Nadal's camp but screeches louder than really any animal that we've ever found on this planet to this day. T-Rex, maybe. But currently, right now, Munar is the loudest human being on the planet on the male phenom of that side. I think on the female side, you might get like a whooping crane. You might get, I don't know, Azarenka. You might get Sharapova. You might get like a female hyena or something. But Munar is up there. Way up there. So the 3rd seed, Dominic Thiem. We'll see what happens. And the 4 seed, Kei Nishikori. Kei Nishikori has a workable draw too as well.
Sure.
And I think there was a viewer that took Kei Nishikori to be his most points accumulator for this tournament.
That's Casper, who I'll be shipping you those strings again.
Taylor Fritz and Riley Opelka, 2 Americans, meet up in the first round of Barcelona. Is this a shock to you?
No.
Get rid of one. Get rid of one, please, man. We're not going to sell any tickets unless one of these guys gets gone.
Yes.
Who do you pick?
Now that I know they paid their players to play in their tournaments, well, yeah, I can see why they put the 2 Americans.
Yeah, let's get rid of one of those guys.
Yeah.
No offense to either one, but Opelka, you got to serve. It's clay.
I'm going with Taylor Fritz on that.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Taylor Fritz here, too. The serve is not...
It neutralizes a bit more on clay.
Yeah, I mean, his serve is so big, it's not going to completely neutralize it, but let's say he serves at 80% and it's somewhat neutralized. The Fritz can just return the ball and then just get into a rally. Fritz is good. David Ferrer in the mix.
Last tournament.
Let's go.
This is one of his last tournaments. He's not playing the French Open.
Do you think Rafael Nadal, if he meets David Ferrer in the 3rd round, will just give him the match so he can retire in style?
No.
So you think Ferrer's last match where he gets his butt whipped by Nadal?
Yes.
All right, we'll see. Nishikori could go deep in this tournament. I really think he could go deep. Nishikori, I think, will end up meeting Fabio Fognini in the 4th round, or I think it would be quarterfinals in a draw of 64. And I think Fognini will get a dose of a Nishikori. Again, the whole Monte-Carlo tournament I liked. It was fun. But it just seems like there wasn't a lot of energy from really anybody there except Fognini and Lajovic. And deservedly, they got to the finals. But it just seemed like everyone else was kind of feeling out the conditions and windy and slow. And but again, we won't get back into that. But I think Nishikori can go deep here in Barcelona.
Okay. I don't. But okay.
Again, next week we have 2 women's tournaments. The biggest one is in Stuttgart, which is actually bigger than Brain Spacious Moment. That's bigger than Barcelona.
Yes. Well, you'll have Naomi Osaka, Simona Halep, Kvitova, Pliskova, Kerber, Bertens, Sevastova, Kontaveit, Sue Shea, Kasatkina, Mertens, Muguruza, Azarenka, Stepenko, Benchik, Pekovic, Pavlyuchenkova, Qian Wang, and Georges. Other few names.
Really big lineup there. And again, just to reiterate, this is a premier WTA. We're going to cover this extensively next week.
Yes.
We're going to cover Barcelona as well, but next week's going to be hopping for us.
Yes.
We're probably going to be here every day.
We have Istanbul, Turkey, which is a much
smaller. But she just read off a blockbuster list of women. Now here's Barcelona, the seeding list, at least to the top 16. Nadal, Zverev, Thiem, Nishikori, Tsitsipas, Khachanov, Medvedev, Fognini, Shapovalov, Goffin, Simone, Carreno Busta, Dimitrov, Tiafoe, Pouille, Auger, Elysium, and don't forget Schwartzman qualified, who should be in there anyway. 2 big tournaments.
And I see here that Yang Chung withdrew again due to back.
I wish the best for Hyung Chung, the Korean. He showed up at the U.S. Open a couple years ago when he hasn't really showed up since, injury issues.
By the way, Sharapova, there's a lot of rumors that she might be retiring.
We'll see what happens with the Screech Queen herself. Hi, E! All right. Anyway, the Osaka, you mentioned Naomi Osaka there just for 1 second. I really hope Naomi Osaka is okay. I hope that she can juggle her off-court fame with her on-court fame. I don't want to see her become Eugenie Bouchard with 2 more slams. I don't want to see her become Anna Kournikova with 2 more slams. But some of the pictures that have come across my plate, which is a rare plate because I really don't look at social media. I think you showed me them, where she's kind of looked like she's more into video games or music or whatever it is, and maybe that's her escape. But I don't feel like some of the pictures would indicate to me.
The video. Get rid of the boyfriend.
There was a video. Yeah,
Get rid of the boyfriend.
There's kind of an iffy boyfriend deal going on there.
Not good.
It's just you don't want to. I don't think you want to add too much color or colorful, flashies and the Ferraris and the rap songs. It just is not at this point. There's nothing wrong with it. I love rap music.
There's nothing wrong with
I
that.
love being colorful.
I just think that when you want to be a champion.
But when you want to be,
Serena, I don't remember her at that age dating.
Yeah, not yet.
I don't remember. Not yet. No.
Learn how to roll with that in terms of, again, let me use myself as an example. So it's not like I'm harping on Osaka and being biased in any way, shape, or form. When you are someone that is aspiring in your master craft, and for you this is tennis, and you find yourself, or one finds themselves, going down a different path entirely, more self-gloating. Look at what I got. Look at how I can be like, what's up? What's up? Come on, big things, big. There's a level of humility you have to be a tennis champion. And based upon some of the recent pictures that I think surfaced, I think our humility is being a little lost. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe she'll win the French, and maybe she'll win Wimbledon, and maybe she'll finish it up winning the U.S. But based upon the trajectory that I have seen, I don't think that's the case. Okay? Yeah. All right. We wish Naomi Osaka the best. But I don't like to see a two-time Grand Slam champion all of a sudden being limelighted on TMZ with the latest rap star. I don't think it's good for you, and maybe not your family, in terms of them being confident about your future, in terms of being maybe one of the best players that's ever walked on this planet as a female. Yeah. Okay? Mm-hmm. Dig deep, fight hard, keep going. Mm-hmm. Same thing with Alina. Go hard, go deep, keep working, let's go. Quote of the day as we end the show. I'm losing the voice. I've had a cold, and it's coming back on me. So here's quote of the day. We always end the show with a kind of a quote of the day, and I have a couple written today, and I mean for these to be happy and lucky and kind of let's go and uplifting, but yet funny at the same time. So here we go. Quote number 1. Trouble, T-R-O-U-B-L-E, trouble knocked at the door, but hearing laughter hurried away. Okay? That came from Benjamin Franklin. Trouble knocked at the door, but hearing laughter hurried away. So in other words, Mr. Trouble knocked on the door. They heard laughter through the door. It was like, ooh, I got to run away. Laughter's the best medicine. Stay positive, and the negative will run away. Okay? Number 2. This one goes out to my 5 kids that always tend to think that what we put on the table in front of them may not be good enough. So this one goes back a couple hundred years, I think. Quote, as a child, my family's menu consisted of 2 choices. Take it or leave it.
Yeah, that was my choice when I was a kid.
That came from Buddy Hackett.
That's how my dad raised us.
Take it or leave it. Because it's quality in here. Let's go. Number 3, as long as people will accept crap, it will be financially profitable to dispense it. And that comes from Dick Cavett. And this one goes out to my dad on this one. My dad used to always say, don't breathe crap, drink slop, or eat. And I'll save the expletive on that one, right? Or eat junk, breathe crap, or drink slop.
Well, I'll say my dad's. My dad's was funny. Love me now. No. Hate me now. Love me later.
Love me later. As long as people will accept crap, it will be financially profitable to dispense it. Does anyone have any examples about that? Anybody have any examples about crap that is profitable to dispense? I think with this comment thread could go on for about 6 million pages. All right, that's it, everyone. Stay positive. Have a great day. Happy Sunday. Hopefully everyone is good. We will see you in a day or 2. There's a lot of tournaments ongoing. I have a feeling it will be tomorrow. Kids are back at school after spring break, so I think we should be good to go. Much love. Click like below. Share our videos. Please subscribe to our channel. We get a bunch of views, but no one wants to subscribe. Sometimes I feel like I need to go back to the practice court. Our other platforms that Carla and myself are involved with are below in the expanded version of the description field. Hit the down arrow, and you'll see YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, so forth. Feel free to contribute to our channel. There is a PayPal and Cash App link below as well. Check out, by the way, YTEX Strings, a great string company with a lot of great individuals, and especially the young man, Ivor Savage, that owns the company. Great company, great products. We will see you very soon, more than likely tomorrow. And as Carla always says,
adios.
Adios. Let's go, Alina. Let's go.